Thank you so much for joining us today for the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Here on the Pastor's Potluck, it's similar to a normal potluck where you might get something that you want and there may be something that you just want to pass up altogether. And that's okay. There's something here for everybody. Our goal here is to encourage you and maybe in the process entertain you. If you're ready, let's dig in. Welcome to another episode of the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. We are back at it again.
Yes.
We're continuing our conversation on Habakkuk, but you just hit me with some interesting information.
Yeah. Let me tell you this. I was in Kroger last week, back by the bathroom. I see this big old shelf of Little Debbie cakes.
Yeah.
Which, for my whole life, I am just a Debbie cake fanatic. I cannot help it.
I know.
My mom, to this day, keeps like boxes and boxes on hand in a little jar. So I like going to her house simply because I know I'm getting Little Debbie's.
Dude, the Christmas tree cakes are the best.
This past year,
Or those little birthday cake
I might have
sticks.
even already talked about it on here before. This past year, it was the Valentine's Day cakes.
Oh, the little pink
The little
hearts.
Pink hearts, they hit so hard this year. Listen, this is how bad it was. I was finding myself stopping at the gas station beside my house to get Little Debbie cakes on my way home from places.
Oh, bruh.
There was something about those daggone pink hearts this year. I don't know what it was, but they went so hard.
And they're so good with like an ice cold glass of
hard,
milk,
man.
dude.
So I was killing them. But I'm in Kroger. I see this whole section, and I cannot remember what we were there for. Yeah, we were buying snacks for our travel baseball tournament.
Yeah.
That we were headed out of town for. We were going to get some snacks for the car. And when you're sitting at the ball field all day, it's a lot better to bring snacks than have to go to the concession stand.
Yeah, because you paid $2 for a bag of
So
chips.
I was like, dang, I'm going to grab some Little Debbie's. A box of Little Debbie's last week at Kroger's was $5.
How many cakes were in the box? Probably 10 or 12?
I don't know. It's just a normal pack that used to be like $1. You used to be able to get a whole box for $1, maybe $2.
Yeah.
$5 for Little Debbie's. I was blown away.
That is pretty pricey if you think about it.
Yeah, you used to be able to get those for $1.99. I'm fairly certain.
Yeah.
And that's when they were expensive. I think they used to be cheaper. And it's like $5 now for a box of, Little Debbie.
Yeah, it's still whenever you do if you break it down like cost per like package, then it makes it like a little bit more reasonable because you're like, this is only like 40 cents or whatever, 50 cents.
Oh, it's like I swear I think there's only 5 double packs in there.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. 5
I'm gonna
or
look
6.
this
Look
up.
it up. We're talking they're at almost $1 a pack now whenever they're at $5 a box.
I'm gonna see.
It's absurd.
Kroger
It
app.
is absolutely absurd.
Yeah, I feel the same way though with every time that the holidays come around. Starting in October and then you get it all the way through January if you're lucky. Eggnog. I love eggnog. I think this last holiday season, I want to say, because you can only buy it in half-gallon increments.
Yeah.
I want to say I drank 10 gallons of that stuff.
I've
So
never
that's 20.
tasted it in my whole life.
You've never tasted it? Do you like milkshakes?
Yeah, but I think I'm out on eggnog.
Dude, you haven't even tasted it.
The whole idea of it sounds awful.
No, it doesn't.
Egg?
It's not, dude, it's not like what you think of eggs.
I've seen it and smelled it, I think. I think I'm out.
Bro, you got to try it. You got to try it.
Man,
I'll bring some.
All right, this
All right.
Christmas on the potluck, I will try eggnog.
All right, that sounds good. All right,
But
so
I do have a bad gag reflex, just the way you know. So if I don't like it, it's going to go horribly wrong on this show.
Dude, well, I don't know what Kroger you went to, but they were ripping people off because look at this. All the little Swiss rolls, everything, $2.59 for zebra cakes, 10 count of zebra cakes. That's two cakes in a package, and there's 10 of them, $2.59. Little Debbie strawberry shortcake rolls, there's 6 count, $2.59.
We need to do a whole episode on Little Debbie.
Bruh, dude.
Just like we did the ice creams.
I will murder. It will be
do
terrible.
Taste testing of all of them.
It will be
even some of the funkier ones that everybody always passes over.
Yeah,
we get those. We try those also.
Dude, I used to.
Maybe they were like the double packs or something. I don't know, but I just remember looking at it and it was $5 for a box, and I was just floored. Like, but even $2.50, I'm not happy about $2.50 either because I know that they used to be cheaper.
But that's what I'm saying. Oh yeah, well, $2.50 is like a lot more reasonable than $5. But that's what I'm saying. Like these, like the 10 count, like the vanilla, red, white, and blue cakes, because it's July 4th.
Yeah.
So it's 10 count. It's not 5 packages. It's 10 packages with 2 apiece.
I don't know about that,
dude. It has to be.
I don't think so. That box is not that big to fit 10 in there. Because they don't. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but still. Whatever was $5 Little Debbie's at the Kroger that
10
I was at.
snack cakes. So you're right, 5 packages.
See, I didn't want to sound too proud about my Little Debbie knowledge, so I was going to give you the benefit of the doubt, but I was fairly certain at 5 packs, that's like 50 cents a pack. I know that's not that much. It's cheaper than if you go to the gas station and buy them because I know what it's like to buy a Little Debbie at a gas station, but... It must have been the double pack or something, but either way, I'm not paying $5 for a box of Little Debbie, and $2.50 still sounds outrageous. Take me back to $1.50 Little Debbie boxes, and I will buy 12 of them right now.
Yeah, you're not too excited about the price, but you want to do an episode of trying all of them.
Yeah, and I will buy them for that.
What's your least favorite?
I don't see. Here's the deal with it. I don't have a least favorite because I only buy the ones that I like.
Okay, which ones do you try to steer clear from?
I don't even know because I don't even pay attention to the duds. Like, I know what I like.
Do you like Star Crunch?
No, absolutely not.
I can murder some Star Crunch.
Marshmallow is so gross. I cannot handle marshmallow. It's disgusting.
Dude, it's like a. But you like Rice Krispie treats?
They would be pretty low on my list of treats. That's for sure. I do not like marshmallow. Like the marshmallow fluff that like people have.
No, I don't like that.
I don't like that.
I don't like that whenever they put that on cake or something like that. That's
like
stupid.
Marshmallow.
That's a waste.
I won't eat s'mores. I don't like graham crackers or marshmallows. I will literally only eat the chocolate.
I like them if they're all separated. And whenever you put them together, it doesn't work for me.
I don't like anything marshmallow. So I'm out on Star Crunch. I'll tell you the one that has gotten after me the past. I didn't eat this growing up. This is like Megan bought some in the last 2 or 3 years, and now it might be the top one. It's that strawberry shortcake one.
Yeah, those are pretty
legit.
That
jelly in that thing, I don't know what's in it. Maybe crack, but that jelly in the strawberry shortcake slaps so hard, like I can't handle it.
Little Debbie's a little hustler.
She is, bro. And again, I didn't have those growing up. My favorite one, especially in college, was chocolate cake with the white icing with the chocolate chips on top.
I don't even know what that is. Oh yeah.
I don't even know what it was called, but
it's like
that
a
was
version
my
of
favorite.
zebra cake, but with like little mini Hershey Kiss on top.
Those were my favorite, and that with milk was just. Man, I would get after it.
Yeah, I like any of the little cakes that's just got like that icing that covers the whole thing.
And I'm getting into the vanilla side. Like I used to mainly just be a chocolate person. I'm really getting into the vanilla side.
Yeah. I
love Little Debbie. We are doing an episode. It's already decided. When we're done with Habakkuk, first time back, we're hitting Little Debbie.
Hitting Little Debbie.
We're going to talk. Let's get into the history of Deborah, where she came from. I want to know her backstory. And I'm going to talk to you all about how she has affected my life.
Yeah, she ain't little anymore.
There's no way she's still little. Not when she's $5 a box, I'll tell you that much. Debbie is living large, I'll tell you that much.
Little Debbie may have like little diabetes.
Yeah, if she's been getting high on her own supply, I'll tell you, she's not Little Debbie anymore. That's for sure. Okay.
Oh.
And I'm telling you, $5 a box. She lives in a mansion too.
Oh, I know, dude. Probably.
She lives in a mansion at $5 a box.
She got gold teeth.
Shoot, if you buy the individual cakes in the gas station, they're almost $2.
What are you doing, bruh?
Maybe even more than that. And I will for that Valentine's heart, I was paying whatever. I could have walked in there some nights. I'm pretty sure it was. There was one night I had an elders meeting up here, which those are normally like Monday nights, and they go till like 9 o'clock at least.
Yeah.
I'm driving home, and I'm like, I've got to have one.
Yeah.
That night, I walked in that gas station. They could have said, these cakes are $25. Yeah. And I was getting one.
You're acting like that dude that always goes in there that, like, you know, he grabs a beer and you could tell, like, all he's got is like $5. Yeah. And he's like, put the change on pump 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
He had to make sure he getting his fix before he taking care of everything else.
They could have charged me anything.
Yeah.
For those Valentine's cakes, and I would have been like, yeah, that's reasonable.
That's so funny, dude. That is so funny.
I mean, they had me. I don't know. They did something different to them Valentine's cakes this year. They had me hooked hard. The more we talk about it, I'm going to skip lunch and go to the gas station.
Oh man, yeah. Well, it's the red, white, and blue cakes now because we're coming up on 4th of July.
They got little sprinkles on top.
I don't know.
I don't like the little sprinkles.
Bruh.
The like little star sprinkles.
You just eat it.
No, I don't like them.
So you pick off everything else. Just take the time to pick off the stuff.
I'll pick the vegetables off of anything, but I won't pick the sprinkles off. I'll just, nope, won't do it out of principle. All right. Well, this whole thing was started because Jared said we need to talk about something that we don't understand because that's what we're talking about in Habakkuk. I said the price of Little Debbie is something I don't understand.
Yeah.
So that's how we got here. So we're going to jump into Habakkuk now and talking more about what to do when things don't make sense. That's going to be hard to bounce back from where we've been.
I know. I'm thinking, how are we going to tie in cakes with Habakkuk? But no, we did it. We did it.
Yeah. How to make sense of things that don't make sense.
Yeah.
But last week we talked about God's response because Habakkuk in the first week said, Lord, look at all this craziness that's going on. What are you going to do? And God goes, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to raise up Babylon to discipline you.
Yeah.
To give you what's coming to you, to get your attention because you've been unfaithful. And we talked about how the sovereignty of God is so remarkable that, like, God uses even pagan nations and pagan kings and foreign armies to do his bidding in the Old Testament. Again, I want to make sure we remind everyone listening, in case you missed last week, we are not saying that this is how God operates now whatsoever. Yeah. Because of the cross, we are in a different covenant than they were at in the Old Testament. So do not think when something bad happens to you, it is correlated to your behavior or anything like that, unless you did something stupid and then you just got what's coming to you.
Yeah.
That's not what we're saying here. So that was God's response to Habakkuk. I am doing something. I'm going to raise up Babylon, and they are going to be my instrument of justice to essentially get Israel's attention. And we talked about how, even though that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us, we have to get to the point where we realize that God is operating at such a higher level than what we will ever be able to comprehend, that we have to be able to get there mentally, to go, okay, and not as some sort of weird Christian cop-out either, but like a consistency in my faith that demands me to go, no, this is who God is, and I can trust him even when things don't make sense, not because of what I see around me, but because of who I know him to be. As revealed in his word, as revealed in my life, I know who he is, so I cannot look at the circumstances around me to decide who God is. I have to look past all of that. I have to look past my feelings to go, no, this is who God is. And so now we're going to get into Habakkuk's second response to God. And I love this. I love his response because you have to think. He asked this question, God, where are you? God responds, hey, I'm raising up Babylon, and you guys are going to get it.
Yeah.
And then this is Habakkuk's response. O Lord, my God, my Holy One, you who are eternal, surely you do not plan to wipe us out. O Lord, our rock, you have sent these Babylonians to correct us, to punish us for our many sins. Habakkuk is not thrilled with God's choice here.
Yeah.
Like, and again, this is the situation all of us get into. We want to play God. We go, okay, well, if I was in God's position, this isn't how I would handle this. I would do things differently than God. And it go, okay, yeah, of course you would do things differently than God because you're not as smart as God. Yeah. You're not as powerful as God. You're not all-knowing like God. You're not all, like, you don't have the wisdom that God has. God, he is eternal. He has always been. He is literally right now managing the affairs of 8 billion people, and most of us have a hard time getting out of bed, showering, and brushing our teeth every day. Yeah. And we think that we somehow know better than this God that is eternal, that is managing the affairs of 8 billion people. Of course you would do it differently because you are not God. That is the whole point. You are not God. Of course you would do it differently. So he does not like God's plan whatsoever, but I love how he begins to talk to God. He says stuff like, you're the everlasting, right? He's in the NLT that I'm using. Oh Lord, my God, my Holy One, you who are eternal. This word like everlasting or antiquity, he is counting on the faithfulness of God in the past for his people. He knows this is the same God that set Israel free out of slavery. He's the same God that brought manna and quail in the middle of the desert. He's the same God that brought water out of the rock. He's the same God that every time Israel turned his back on him, it raised up a new judge to help set them free. He's the same God over and over and over. And the note that I have here says, to trust God when things don't make sense in your present, you must remember God's faithfulness in your past. And that has been such a key for me. Oh, yeah. In my life, because I've shared a lot in the last couple months that I feel like the last 10 years of my life has been, even though if you look at everything from the outside, it would be like, wow, you pastor one of the biggest churches in Charleston. You live in a nice house. You have a good income. You have a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful kids that are talented in everything that they do. You have friends. You have family. You have your health. You have, like, looking from the outside in, people probably would go like, Scott, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Why in the world do you feel like your life has been a living hell for the last 10 years? That's because you can't see all of that. Yeah. But I also know all of those things that God has brought me through is what, like when I'm having a bad day this week, will be the thing that sustains me, because I go, okay, I've been here before. And I have. The season of life I'm in right now, I've been here before. So I've already seen God bring me through it once, and that's where Israel is at right now also. They've already seen God do this over and over and over, and how he has rescued them and brought them out. So they've already been there. So it is the things that he has done in the past that gives me the ability to trust him in the moment when things don't make sense.
Even in the moments whenever in your own personal life, like before you met Jesus, it's like, man, God had his hand on my life and like saved me from a ton, like long stints in prison. Like I should be dead. Yeah. You know, like, but looking back on it, like I saw God, I can see God's hand over my life. Yeah. And just every single little aspect of it, he's had his hand there, and I've seen his goodness and his faithfulness. Even though I was just so blind and oblivious to the fact that he was doing something, he was working, he was trying to get my attention. Yeah. It's just, I mean, we can go and talk about stories after story after story after story, just of every little thing, you know, with, Landon's situation whenever he was born. Nolan had something similar to where he was in the NICU for eight days after he was born. Yep. Luke with all of his food allergies and how it's crazy that, you know, there's things that he can eat that he can die from. And luckily some of the stuff that he was eating there were things that he was allergic to, but it wasn't as severe as some of the other things, because I mean, what normal kid doesn't just go and get popcorn shrimp at, some, restaurant or something like that, or popcorn chicken or something, you know what I'm saying? It's like those types of things that God has had his hand over every little detail and aspect of my life, like his goodness and his faithfulness. Yeah. They could just be so blind to that. Like, God, I could have a kid that's buried in the ground. Like,
Yeah, I mean, before I was like 20 years old, 21 years old, I had been in 2 car wrecks that when my parents showed up at the scenes for both of them, that the cops told them twice that I should have died.
yeah.
Like, I was in one when I was 17. I still have a huge scar on my elbow from it. That I was in an old rickety truck of my friends. Some people pulled out in front of us. We T-boned them. And the cop said normally in those situations, the person sitting in the seat that I was in would fly out the window, but I had my seatbelt on. And I actually was able to help hold back the girl that was in the middle seat that didn't have a seatbelt on. And that's how my elbow went up and got cut the way that it was. I walked away with literally, I had 14 stitches in my elbow. I think it was 14. That was it.
Yeah.
Next time I got into a car wreck on the way home in college, we were drinking. I was not drinking and driving, but I had no issue getting in a car with people that were drinking and driving. It was some of the most foolish mistakes I ever made in my life. But we wrecked on the way home from a party in Huntington, and the car I was in did a full front flip, ended up on the side. I was sleeping in the passenger side. That woke me up naturally.
Yeah.
And the side I was on was the side that was down. The car was, after the front flip, was on its side and skidded about 150 yards down the interstate. I literally walked away from that with not a single scratch on me.
Bro, if
Not
you'd
a
have been
single
asleep
scratch.
through all of that, I'd have been like, you're more like Jesus than you realize.
Yeah.
You remember Jesus? And
Yeah,
he's
he
in the
did.
middle of that big old crazy
And
storm.
so both of those, and I go, wow. And somehow neither one of those ever got my attention to go, well, don't you realize that, like, God had his hand on you even when you were doing stupid, foolish things
Yeah.
that I regret and embarrassed of to this day. Like, God's hand was still on me. I'll never forget, there was a night in college that I went and got super drunk, ended up at my friend's house, sleeping on their couch. And I wake up in the middle of the night, and on the TV, there is you remember them CDs? Now That's What I Call Music.
Yeah.
It was the Christian version of that.
Yeah.
So I wake up, and I'm still drunk, and I hear these songs that I grew up singing in church. Shout to the Lord, Breathe, all these like 90s and early 2000s things. And I'm just laying on that couch, and next thing I know, I am overcome with emotion. And I thought, man, that was so weird. And I actually freaked out. It's in the middle of the night. My sister was actually at college in Kansas City, I think. She was somewhere, I don't know. But I called her. And I was never one to call my sister. Actually, my family knew when I was drunk because I would call them. Outside of that, I didn't call unless I needed money. I was a horrible son and brother and friend and everything.
Yeah.
But I called my sister in the middle of the night. That night, I was drunk and I'm crying because there's this Christian music that's just overwhelming me, and I'm telling her how mad I am at God for how He killed my grandmother.
Yeah.
That was my words, essentially. Like, my grandmother got colorectal cancer in her 60s. I thought that she had lived a life that deserved better than that. And the way that we had to watch her suffer the last couple of years of her life, especially the last couple of weeks of her life, was some of the most difficult things, and I never dealt with it. And I remember waking up that night, I just called Jessica. I was so mad. And so she called my mom, and my mom literally just got up. It was like 4 a.m. and drove up to Morgantown and found me just walking the streets. I don't know what the heck I was doing, but she just picked me up, put me in the car, drove me home, and just took care of me for the whole weekend. But, like, I still remember that moment of hearing those songs and going, that should have been something that I went, I think God might be trying to get my attention through and this is before I'm saved. God is still trying to get my attention to show me how faithful He has been through my whole life. Even though I was a kid raised in church and knew better than the life that I was living, there I was in a drunken stupor, and He's reaching out to me through stinking commercial.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you the amount of times where I can see that. Like I've told this story a bunch. My home church came up to Morgantown whenever I was in college to take all the college kids out to dinner. So I was pumped because it was free food. I was not pumped because it was church people. But my mom and dad came up with them. We were at a Chili's and we had to wait forever, which sucked. I was like, no, I don't want to wait. Just give us a table. But there were so many of us. Well, while we're waiting at this Chili's, my mom meets this guy, which, parents have this way of just like, they talk to everybody.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be that parent. I don't talk to anybody. She meets this guy. He's
like
part of a
teeth
church.
Getting you on here.
I know. He's part of a church
Sorry.
up in Morgantown that was planted by the son of a guy that has gone to my home church. All these people that are up there know this guy's dad.
Yeah.
And so this the church planter's dad, but it was one of his friends that was helping plant the church that my mom met this guy named Chris at this, and of course she like drags me over to meet this guy. I was like, I don't want to meet this Christian.
Is this the guy that would give you bus rides and stuff like that?
Yeah.
He'd pick you up.
And
did you ever get in contact with him?
Yeah, I did get in contact with him. I let him know that like God used that interaction in a Chili's because he invited me to church, and I was like, oh yeah, man, I don't, yeah, maybe. And it was like any excuse I came up with, he would come up with a response like, no, I'll give you a ride or I'll give you gas money or whatever to get me there. And I went a couple of times and, just never like changed anything about me. I just went a couple of times. But I look back and I go, that was my junior year. And within 2 years, I would be saved.
Yeah.
Those were all, like, even in my unfaithful times, God was still being faithful to me. And so now whenever I'm facing these difficult situations and I'm going, okay, God, where are you at? Where are you moving? I can look back and go, even when I was unfaithful, God was still being faithful, still reaching out to me, still taking care of me, still there for me. It's remarkable. And this is what Habakkuk does in this passage is, he says, my God. He calls him my God, right? So this is personal for him. He calls him the Holy One, affirming his sovereignty and his authority. He also is affirming that what this God does is just and right, even if it looks on the surface like it's not. Because to some, to see God raise up the Babylonians to exile and overtake Israel looks very unjust. Yeah. But no, listen, this is a God of justice. Israel was wrong. They were going to face the punishment based on the covenant that they had made with God. Mm-hmm. This is everything that this God does is just and right. And if you come to a point where you come to think, oh no, that's not, this is wrong, then somehow you have placed yourself in a more morally superior position to God. When you start thinking that the things, and it's like, that's a dangerous place to be, to think that you're morally superior to God, given just how broken we all are. Yeah. He says, you're eternal. You know the end from the beginning. You can be trusted because you stand outside of all of this. Your wisdom is far beyond human capacity. He calls him my rock, which is a way of saying he's our protector. Yeah. What Habakkuk knew was that what he believed about God, he knew that, but he had to be reminded of it in the middle of his difficulty. Yeah. Because sometimes we're in the middle of it, we forget all these things that are true about God. When we can focus on what's true about God, it helps us to not focus on our circumstances. We don't focus on the things that don't make sense. We don't focus on the things that we're struggling with. We're able to focus in on what we know to be true, and that is the character of God. And he goes on, verse 13, but you are pure and cannot stand the sight of evil. Will you wink at their treachery? Should you be silent when the wicked swallow up more righteous than they? Are we only fish to be caught and killed? Are we only sea creatures that they have no leader? Must we be strung up on their hooks and caught in their nets while they rejoice and celebrate? Then they will worship their nets and burn incense in front of them. These nets are the gods who have made us rich, they will claim. Will you let them get away with this forever? Will they succeed forever? in their heartless conquests, God's answer leads to more and more and more questions for Habakkuk. So I want to make sure we understand that in the midst of uncertainty, I'm not saying that any of this that I'm saying right now will lead you to a place that all of your questions are answered. Mm-hmm. In fact, you may end up with more questions.
Yeah.
You may, okay, God, this is going to be how you do it, but what effect is this going to have? How long will you let it go? And you end up with more and more questions. How could God use the wicked nation to punish one that's wicked, but probably not as wicked as the Babylonians? It seems so inconsistent. How could this happen? And again, having faith doesn't mean everything's going to make sense. And I don't think as the people of God and as people of faith that we have to say that everything makes sense. I don't think we have to say, okay, well, he's God, so we just, I don't think we have to take that posture. I think that God is okay with our questions. I think God is okay with our doubts. I think God is okay with us wrestling with what's going on. Like there's this false narrative that you see sometimes around certain faith communities that's like, don't you dare question God. Don't you dare for a moment doubt God, or else you're not really. It's like, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
Like in any situation where you're required to have trust, there is always the possibility of doubt. In fact, it's the strength of your doubt that will actually influence the strength of your trust.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you don't actually have any doubt, then you don't really trust. Right? To remove all certainty or to remove all uncertainty is not to actually trust. That's just to be sure. That's not faith.
I mean, you see it time and time again. We know people who have had cancer and have been healed from it. And God has done something incredibly miraculous in their lives. But they still got to go get checked and make sure that they don't have cancer. I mean, that's probably a bad analogy, but you're still going to do your due diligence. You're still going to go and verify those things and make sure that it is correct, that it has been done, that it has been taken care of.
But just don't be one of those people that thinks doubts and questions make you less of a Christian.
Yeah.
This was one of the issues that I struggled with so much growing up, is I felt like everyone was so certain in my church. I didn't feel like church was a safe place for questions. I don't know that my church ever actually did anything that made me think that.
Yeah.
That probably just came from my own stupidity. Truthfully, but I didn't know that the church was a safe place for questions. I always thought, well, what if I ask this question? Then they're going to start thinking that maybe I'm involved in this, and this. And, well, then they're going to tell my parents, and then I'm going to get in trouble because of the question. That's how I thought things would go. It's not how it ever went. But that's because I never ended up with the courage to actually ask the questions. But what I've come to know is that doubts and questions do not make you less of a person. It's actually the more that you wrestle with your doubts and your questions that you actually begin to deepen your faith. The more I've wrestled with my own doubts over the last 13 years as a Christian, it's been those times that have actually led me into a deeper faith as I start wrestling with the truth of Christianity and is there any evidence. The more I got into the apologetic side of my faith, the more now I'm in this position where I go, it doesn't really matter what happens to me or happens in my life. I'm so convinced at the truth of the resurrection that I wouldn't change my mind for anything.
Yeah.
That didn't come from a place of certainty. That came from a place of doubts and questions. And the more questions I asked, the more doubts I had, the more answers I sought out.
Yeah.
And the deeper my faith grew.
Yeah. It's just, if I want to know something about any kind of topic, you're going to go and research it. Whenever you're buying a brand new car and, is this car, is this reliable? Is this, you're going to go do the research, do the reviews.
Because if you don't have any doubts about it to go ask the questions, then you might end up with something that you don't really want.
Yeah, well, and then the same comes with this. If I have any questions about this, or if something comes up, then I'm gonna hey, I'm gonna ask you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get deeper into reading the Word. I'm gonna be praying more because I want to know the answer to what I'm trying to figure out. It's not just like, well, I'm just going to go through life and that's just going to be one thing that I don't fully understand. And like, I'm okay with it. Like, that's just not how I was wired.
No,
I don't, because I know that somebody else is going to sit there and go and probably has the same question about what I have.
absolutely.
You know,
They do. And the better Christians can wrestle with doubts and questions themselves, the more that we can help other people wrestle with their doubts and questions as well. And that's when Peter says, I think it's in 1 Peter, he says, always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that you have.
Yeah.
Like when there's people that don't understand why you see the world the way that you do or why you have faith the way that you do, and they want to ask, how is it that you have this hope that you have despite the fact that the world is in this sort of shape and all of this stuff is happening? Be prepared to wrestle with your own questions and your own doubts the way you can help other people do the same. In fact, the name Habakkuk actually means to wrestle.
Yeah.
So like that's where we've been headed this whole time is I don't know that I'm not saying that even in this situation that there's a nice and neat answer for what Habakkuk and Israel is going through. I am saying that I think the best thing that he does and that he models for us here is that he wrestles with it. And we're going to learn in the coming weeks exactly what that looks like to wrestle with God, to wrestle with the uncertainty. We'll get into some nuts and bolts sort of stuff next week and in the coming weeks on what that looks like. But for this week, just make sure you get it. When you look around and you're wondering, well, how is there a good God and yet there's all these kids that are starving and there's horrible things happening to people and Little Debbie cakes for $5 a box. Like when you're asking those questions, just know it's okay to wrestle. It is okay because the more you wrestle, the stronger you will get.
Yeah. That's good stuff. I like it.
Here we go.
All right. Mystery meat time. All right.
Still can't believe we haven't found the ones I put in there.
Do you want me to put this one back?
No, because the ones I put in there are for Anna.
Okay.
Specifically.
Yeah. Okay.
Specifically.
Discuss a Christian movie or TV show that has left a lasting impression on you.
I am the wrong person for this.
So you want me to put that one back?
I hate Christian movies so much. All right, so I was just, what was I watching? Oh, I was watching a Tim Hawkins. He's a Christian comedian.
Yeah.
I watched him say something recently. He said, I don't want to be a Christian comedian because normally what that means is
everything
we're going to do something worse just because we're Christian.
Yeah.
Right, and that's my problem with Christian movies. And I got fussed at one time because I said in a sermon that Christian movies suck because they do.
Yeah,
they 100% suck.
Yeah,
and it's like
they're turning it around. They are a little bit.
It's getting better
because they're
and I'm a big fan of The Chosen. I don't care what Vody Bachman or anyone else like that says. The Chosen is doing a really good job of helping people be introduced to Jesus.
Have you been keeping up to date with it?
I haven't. I know that they're having some legal struggles, and I don't even know if I saw the last season. Truthfully,
yeah.
And I know that there was some stuff in the last season surrounding like Peter walking on water. That was just. I know that I'm not saying that I'm like they're doing a good job though. That is at least high quality, and the expansion of the story, even though it's not biblical in some ways, I think is very cool to see. So like I'm a big fan of The Chosen, and I do think some of the movies are turning it around, but I also think that a lot of Christians just give Christian movies a pass for sucking just because they're Christian. Same thing with like Christian music, same thing with Christian comedians and whatever else. As long as you label it Christian, then it's wholesome, but it can suck. And it's like, no, that should not. Christians should make the best forms of art because art is a form of beauty, and all of that comes from God.
Yes,
creativity, art, beauty, all of that is part of God's new. It's part of new creation.
Yes,
to create and make beautiful things. So we should have the best music. We should have the best movies. We should have the best books, the best podcasts. Everything should be the absolute best because we are the people energized by the Spirit of God, the creative, the very Spirit of God. That oversaw, that was hovering over the darkness as creation was bursting forth. That same Spirit lives in the New Testament believer. So therefore, we should not settle for crap and just go, well, it's Christian, so it's good for you. Like, no, we should do way better. We should make movies and television that is wholesome for Christians to consume, and make sure that it doesn't suck. Don't skimp on the budget. Don't make ridiculous theological that's always been my issue. Like, remember the movies that were coming out for a while?
Left Behind?
No, those are ridiculous.
Don't get you started.
No, like Facing the Giants and all of them that came from that one group of people.
Yeah.
Like, Facing the Giants is the stupidest movie on the face of the earth. Like, the whole premise that kid is going to kick that field goal because God changed the wind in the game. Like, what does that say to people when you make stupid movies about how God changed the wind to help a field goal go through?
Well, it's based off the premise of terrible theology, that
It's
I can
just
do all things
stupid.
through Christ who strengthens me. Like, that's not what that means. That's not what that verse means.
And then at the end of the movie, I swear, when he gets home and she says, "You made the team," and he goes, "What team?" "The daddy team." That is the stupidest line in any movie ever. And we all praise it and go, well, see, at least it's wholesome. No, it's stupid, man. Nobody wants to watch that crap. Nobody wants to watch that crap. Make better movies. Yeah. Make exciting movies. Make things that matter. Not just, it's so silly. Like, oh my goodness gracious. It makes me so angry. And so I fully agree with what Tim Hawkins was saying. Don't make Christian comedy. Make comedy that's really good that Christians can enjoy.
Yeah.
Don't make Christian movies. Make movies that Christians can enjoy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, make television that Christians can enjoy at a high level. Like The Chosen. I would say The Chosen is setting a new bar for Christian entertainment. And I hope Dallas Jenkins, even though I may have all kinds of difference of opinions on all sorts of stuff with that guy, I hope he continues to do what he's doing even long after The Chosen is said and done. Because if I'm not mistaken, the new season, Jesus gets arrested at the end of it. So, like, I know that they're ending. I think their goal was to do 7 seasons. So it looks like they're going to do the Passion Week for like 3 seasons if that holds up like that.
They're gonna touch base with all the disciples too, and like their stories after.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So I hope that I hope they do the Book of Acts.
How they die.
I hope they just keep it on, all going on and on and on and on. As long as they continue to keep the level of quality where I've seen it to be.
Yeah.
And I would appreciate if they didn't do such outlandish things with some of the storylines.
Yeah.
But it's still it's still better options than what we've been given.
Oh, I know.
Previously,
it's better than that Noah movie that came out. Like,
well, that wasn't a Christian movie. That was made by what is it? What's his? I can't.
Russell Crowe.
Yeah, but
the
director that did it is, not a Christian director. It's Reddick.
I don't remember.
I cannot think of the guy's name. I know who it is in my head, and I cannot remember. But they weren't trying to make that a Christian movie. And it was so funny because I saw Christians fussing about that movie. I was like, you guys do know that this isn't coming from the Christian or even the Judeo-Christian viewpoint whatsoever.
Yeah.
They are taking this full on as a myth, and doing whatever they want with it. Yeah. So I saw someone recently post about that movie, and it cracked me up because first off I was like, that movie's 10 years old for you to be making Facebook posts about it.
Yeah.
right now, and then second off, they didn't make a Christian version of this. That's not what they were doing.
Yeah.
They were just oh, this is a cool story. Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing there. So it's it's very funny. That was not a Christian movie. It wasn't meant to be whatsoever.
Well, hopefully somebody gets inspired to maybe create something different, but with the 40 or 50 people that listen to this every single week.
Yeah. Or just take this away from it. Whatever it is that you do, please do it to the best of your ability, because that's what God has called us to do.
Yeah.
This is why, like, it frustrates me that, like, people talk about churches like ours that are highly programmed in a negative way. To go like, oh, all the lights and the sound and all that. God doesn't need God wants excellence.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying excellence is being able to keep up with the mega church down the road. Excellence is doing the best with what you have. Most churches do not do that. Most churches are absolutely stinking lazy when it comes to that.
Rinse and repeat.
And then they just blame it on, well, we're being true to the gospel. No, you are being lazy. And if you are a if you're a church staff member in a situation like that and you are not doing your best every single time that those doors are open for people to come and experience God, you are robbing your church of whatever it is that they are paying you. And you are derelict in your duties as one of the pastors or staff of that church to not give your 100% absolute best every single service. You are absolutely, it's ministry malpractice to sit there and try to overly spiritualize, well, we have crap services because we're just being faithful with what we have. No, you're being lazy.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And when you make crap movies, you're being lazy. When you make, whatever it is, and then you put Christian on it so the way people will swallow it and go, oh, well, that's okay because it's Christian. Stop it. Stop it. What is the passage in, is it Colossians? Do everything as if you're doing it unto the Lord.
Yeah.
Who in the world would literally, who would serve the Lord something half-heartedly?
No.
If you knew the Lord was coming to your house for dinner,
you would clean it top to bottom, left to
top
right,
to bottom,
and you would make
and
sure
every
that
Sunday
every
the
single
Lord
recipe
wants to show up in your services, and you've literally served him peanut butter and jelly. It's ridiculous, and then you call it, well, we're being faithful, man. We're being faithful. No, you are being lazy. Let's call it out. Let's call it what it is. Stop complaining that the church down the road has better lights than you. If you want to know why our services are what they are and why we're so hard on it, is because we believe, we're just crazy enough to believe that God actually deserves our best. If God called us to do this, I want to give it everything I possibly have. That's why, like, when people preach here, they get feedback from me, and it's not always good feedback. We do a service planning meeting every single week because I want to make sure that people understand. If we made something wrong the day before, God deserves better.
Yeah, every little detail gets looked at and talked about and gone over.
And this is how it should be, and we should not just say, oh, but it's Christian, so it's okay. No. Stop that crap. Do your best for God or do something else.
Bruh, do you need a little Debbie cake?
I do, bro. We're getting close to lunchtime. What's up?
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. The next one's going to be another really, really, really good one. And but anyways, we'll see you next week for another episode of the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Thank you so much for listening in with us today. We really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram. You can also watch the video version of this on YouTube as well. All you have to do is search up the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. From all of us here, we want to say thank you, and we'll see you next week.